Yeah, hello all. This is actually Balaji here, Executive Agile Coach and Leadership Agile Mentor. Uh, like in this particular video, I actually thought to share some of my perspectives on how to do Agile retrospectives. For example, when we are actually talking about retrospective, I actually tend to see it in three main things. One is the iteration level retrospective, second is the program increment level retrospective, and the final thing could be the go live or the production release related retrospective, which is actually typically done post go live. So in this particular article, I'm just sharing my own perspectives based on my experience, how to do how to do agile retrospectives with some varieties. Say for example, if you always try to do the retrospective in this same manner, like what actually went well, what actually did not go well, what are all the improvement items, that is okay, but then over a period of time it may try to create a boredom feeling, because the pattern is a bit monotonous, right? So in this particular article, I am just sharing my own perspectives. What are all the different ways? What are all the different varieties by which you can do a retrospective? Now, before I share my perspective, the general rule of the thumb is one of the best way to do a retrospective, is to ask your team itself. Hey team, do you have any ideas to share? Do you have any ideas to share to improve our retrospective? So predominantly in an agile driven engagement, enabling and empowering the team is of a paramount importance. So the moment you are asking their own thought process to do an agile retrospective, we are not only enabling and empowering them, we are also creating a buy-in from them so that they can contribute to the agile retrospective ceremony in a much more better manner. Okay, so let us now go through these points one by one. So the first point is agile retrospectives make good teams great. Yes, quite obvious, because anyone who is trying to embark on the path of continuous improvement will actually tend to keep on going to the higher scales, right? So if you see, the point is this: doing the retrospective is actually one thing, and converting those particular action items into actionable user stories. And when you do the capacity planning for the next sprint, I always advise my team of teams to actually give at least 5% of the total effort, so as to address these particular retrospective action items. Okay. One more point to keep in mind is, even these particular retrospective action items need to be prioritized and then taken into the sprint backlog one by one. Okay. So the second way, as I had mentioned, one of the best way to do a retrospective is to ask the team itself for their own suggestions. Okay. So the third way is to do a retrospective is, why don't you take the metrics? Like you can take your burn up chart, you can take your burn down chart, or you can take your program increment level program predictability measure report, which we actually call it as a PPM report in a SAFe. So why don't we use the metrics itself so as to do a data driven retrospective? Because once the moment you are actually using the metrics so as to drive your retrospective, the conversations will have more objectivity, right? So from that perspective, you can take your the metrics dashboard or report, and then you can try to do a retrospective. Fine. But then we also need to keep in mind, it will be very difficult to quantify each and every subtle aspects or feelings of the team, because like at the end of the day, we are all people, right? Working for different projects or programs. So the point is, when I was doing a retrospective with my teams long back, because now I'm an executive agile coach. So currently Currently, I'm not getting an opportunity to do retrospective with the team level, like the Scrum and the Kanban teams. But when I was actually doing a retrospective with my team some 6 to 7 years back, what I used to do is we also used to create some kind of a questionnaire, some kind of a surveys, so as to calculate, so as to factor the feel factor of, like, okay, how does the team felt on a particular day. So here, if you go through this particular article, I have actually mentioned that whenever we are doing a retrospective, it will be better to combine the data-driven retrospective and also this particular subjective elements, and then do a retrospective. One time you can do a data-driven retrospective. One time you can come up with a short survey or a open-ended questionnaire, and then you can do a uh, like you can do a retrospective. Okay, then the point is, okay, the other way to do a retrospective is, why don't you use an agile gaming techniques. Okay, you can actually use a sailboat retrospective or some other retrospective, just to mimic or simulate that particular scenario using a gaming technique, and then you will actually try to derive an analogy out of it. So the moment we actually do it in a gaming technique, no, it actually brings in the fun element, and wherever there is a fun element combined with the focus, I do believe creativity will be there. So probably you can actually test it out. Okay, now the point number 7 is very important. As I mentioned already, have separated retrospectives for sprint, for program increment, release, for the primary reason that your goal of your sprint is different. The goal of your program increment is actually different. The goal of your release is actually different. One more thing, the teams who are working at this level are actually also different, because when you're doing a retrospective at an iteration level, it is only for a team. Whereas if you're doing for a program increment level, it is actually a team of teams, right? So it could be an art level, or it could be an art combined with a solution train level, depending upon your own ecosystem or the landscape. Now, point number 8, as I have mentioned, now start working on the captured improvement items. Only then the information is going to become a transformation. And like as I mentioned, whenever you are doing capacity planning for the next sprint, try to factor 5 to 10% of a capacity, and convert these particular retrospective action items into actionable user stories, so that someone can actually pick it up from the backlog for your like as a part of the flow of the sprint or the iteration. Okay, then, okay, this is something when I was working in a large scale agile transformation. And whenever I'm saying a large scale agile uh, like agile transformation, it is actually typically 2000 plus people. So what had actually happened was, there are multiple teams which are doing a retrospective, so as to have a proper parenting, and so as to have a proper flow orchestration, I have created an epic or a sub-epic saying. Like, say for example, okay, 2021 to 2022 continuous improvement initiative. Under this, I will be creating a Kaizen features. Let's say for a example, product space related improvement areas, process mechanism improvement areas, stakeholder engagement improvement areas, team level technical agility improvement areas. And as you are parenting your project or product level user stories to a feature, and the feature is parented to a sub-epic or a epic, I also used to maintain a separate visual mapping for a retrospective action items, because this particular thing comes under system of a continuous improvement. So in my opinion, you need to focus on 3 main pillars harmoniously. System of delivery, which is actually going to talk about your product teams or project teams who are actually executing in the Scrum model or the Kanban model, or a mix of Scrum and Kanban. You are safe. You are like, if you are taking this like the Spotify model, which is primarily focusing on formulating a squad, right? SQUAD. So the point what I'm trying to say is, all these things only talk about system of a delivery. When you're talking about your system of transformation, it is going to focus on your agile transformation roadmap, your outcome based plan, what are all the priorities as part of your transformation roadmap. But this particular retrospective action items should be positioned as a system of a continuous improvement. However, your system of continuous improvement is going to get validated on your system of a delivery only. But then I still wanted this to be focused as a separate activity. So probably you can actually go through this link. Okay. And one more point, what I like to share is, many people talk about that we are all working virtually. What are all the tools to do the retrospective? So nowadays we have a lot of collaboration tools. You can even use a Trello board, okay, Trello, Trello board to do a retrospective. My say is, more than focusing on the tool, focus on the mindset level. Hey, like what are all the different things which I need to do? All these tools are only enablers. Okay, I'm not trying to underestimate the importance of a tool, because I also understand that the tool is a single source of truth and it is a centralized repository. But then individuals and the interactions over processes and the tools, while we have value on the right, the value on the left is more than the value on the right. So whenever you have any kind of a tricky situation, if you want to have clarity whether I need to take the path X or I need to take the path Y, if you are in the crossroads of making a decision, just to refer back to the 4 lines of Agile Manifesto, just to refer back to the 12 principles of Agile. There lies the answer. Maybe you may not be capable enough to pull out answer from there, but for most of your problems, your answers are already given in the Agile principles. You should be equipped enough to read it between the lines or go through it and then pull out the inferences from there. So just go through this, and if any queries, you can feel free to connect with me. All right. Yeah, cheers. Bye.